If you live in the Denver area, you probably see certain names over and over and over. One of those is the Chatfield family. Today, we're going to dive into the history of the Chatfield family and how they've shaped Colorado. Alright, before we get going too far into this, I have to mention that Haley and I own a real estate brokerage in the area, and Haley's also a lender, so if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in Colorado, please keep us in mind. We would love to help. Colorado, a land of stark beauty and untamed promise. A place where the echoes of the gold rush still reverberated, but where a new kind of wealth was being forged from the soil itself. This is the story of the Chatfield family, whose roots run deep in the fertile valleys south of Denver. A story woven into the very fabric of Littleton, Colorado. 1859. Isaac Willard Chatfield, barely a man at 23, and his young wife, Eliza Ann Harrington, leave behind the familiar landscapes of Illinois, drawn westward by the allure of opportunity. They weren't gold seekers, not primarily. They were land seekers, drawn by the promise of building a life, a legacy, on the vast, open plains. Denver, a chaotic mix of muddy streets and makeshift tents, disappoints them. The gold fields are overrun. The claims are mostly played out, and the cost of living is exorbitant. They briefly retreat to Kansas, where their first child, Ella, is born. But the gathering storm clouds of the Civil War force them to return east. Isaac enlists answering the call to defend the Union. He serves with distinction, rising to the rank of lieutenant in the 27th Illinois Infantry. He experiences the horrors of war firsthand, but illness, a persistent kidney ailment, forces his discharge. The war ends, leaving a nation fractured. Isaac, bearing the invisible wounds of conflict, returns west, his resolve strengthened. He's no longer just seeking land. He's seeking a place to heal, a place to build anew, which Colorado has become for generation after generation. He initially settles near Florence, proving his skills as a cattleman. But his ambition is restless. He sees the potential of the fertile lands north of Denver along the South Platte. (1871). Isaac makes his defining move. He purchases 160 acres from J.B. Hendy near the confluence of the South Platte and Plum Creek, a strategic location that will become the heart of his operations. He later expands his holdings, acquiring another 560 acres from Denver lawyer and surveyor Dan Witter, a vast expanse stretching north to the junction of the Platte and Bear Creek. Isaac understands that land is only part of the equation. Access to transportation is crucial. He uses his influence to persuade the Colorado Central Railroad to establish a station on his property named Chatfield Station. Chatfield Station becomes a vital hub, connecting Littleton to Denver and the wider world. Cattle are shipped to market and vital supplies flow into the growing community, but it's another crop that truly puts Littleton on the map. Potatoes. The rich soil and access to irrigation make the area ideal for potato farming, and Isaac becomes a leading proponent, shipping his crop across the country. It should be noted as well that the railroad Chatfield Station would go into the Littleton Station, which allowed a group of agricultural entrepreneurs to be successful in that South Platte region. By 1873, Littleton has blossomed into a thriving agricultural center. Over a dozen farms dot the landscape, producing not just potatoes, but also wheat, corn, and other hardy crops. 17 lakes, remnants of ambitious irrigation projects, shimmer in the sunlight, providing life-giving water to the fields. These lakes, scorning at General Long's expedition, because when General Long came across the state of Colorado, he marveled at how our ground was useless and couldn't be used for anything. It was this very control of water that Chatfield invested himself in that allowed agriculture to become a main economic staple here in Colorado. Isaac's influence extends beyond agriculture. He invests heavily in the Last Chance Ditch Company, a vital artery that carries water from the South Platte to the thirsty fields. He understands that water is the lifeblood of the West, and he ensures that Littleton's farmers have access to the precious resource. The dense cottonwood trees line the ditch, become a valuable asset providing timber and fuel for the growing community. Isaac's family grows alongside his enterprises. He and Eliza Ann have 9 children, though sadly some die in infancy. Ella, their eldest, would later become a celebrated soprano in Leadville, where they later move, gracing the stage of the opera house built by Horace Tabor, the Tabor Opera House, one of the most grand buildings in Colorado, of which we'll do a whole other video on. But the lure of silver proves too strong to resist for Isaac down in little old tiny town, Littleton. In 1879, Isaac moves his family to Leadville, drawn by the booming mining town. If you've never been to Leadville, it's the highest town in the continental United States, and it's got quite the history, a rough and tumble mining town. He leaves behind his ranch, but he retains his investments in the Last Chance Ditch Company, a testament to his foresight. In Leadville, Isaac enters the world of railroad contracting, a lucrative but risky business. He also invests in silver mines, hoping to strike it rich. He partners with Joseph Brinker Jr. in a grocery store, providing provisions for the miners who flock to Leadville in search of a fortune. And this is what actually was Isaac's most successful business in Leadville. Isaac even ventures into politics eventually, serving as city alderman in Leadville, but Leadville is a far cry from the settled agricultural community of Littleton. It's a rough and tumble town where fortunes are made and lost overnight. However, Isaac isn't the only Chatfield who's going to make his mark on Littleton. While Isaac chases his fortune in Leadville, his cousin Edward Livingston Chatfield remains in Littleton. Building his own legacy, Edward, a veteran of the Civil War, arrives in 1874, seeking healing and a new beginning. You gotta think too, these two Chatfield brothers have so much in common. They both fought in the Civil War, experiencing a torn nation. They're emotionally scarred after the war, so they're both coming out to Colorado for healing, and their healing really happens through their work. Edward's war experience was profoundly different from Isaac's. He served in the Union Army and saw intense combat, including the Battle of Chickasaw Bayou and the brutal fighting around Vicksburg. He even spent 10 grueling months as a prisoner of war, enduring the horrors of Andersonville, Camp Lawton, and Florence Prison before finally escaping. These experiences shaped Edward, leaving both physical and emotional scars. He suffered from recurring bouts of malaria and the lingering effects of his imprisonment. But he also emerged from the war with a deep resilience, a quiet strength that would serve him well in the years to come. He came to Littleton not just for land, but also seeking a change of air, hoping the drier climate would benefit his family, particularly his mother who suffered from severe asthma. He purchased land from Isaac, a 2,700 by 675-foot rectangle along the South Platte, a portion that would later become part of the Chatfield State Reservoir. It took 5 years for Edward and his family to make the move from Kankakee, Illinois to Littleton, arriving in 1879. They settled on the land facing Chatfield Station, joining the growing community. Edward's land bordering the South Platte became his livelihood. He secured water rights, vital for any farmer in the semi-arid region. One of Edward's most significant contributions to Littleton came in the form of his role as the Platte District Road Overseer for Arapahoe County. This wasn't just a job, it was a calling. He had gotten experience building roads in the Civil War, and in this job, he was responsible for maintaining the roads, ensuring they were passable for wagons and stagecoaches. He oversaw the construction and repair of bridges, vital links across the rivers and creeks. For 10 years, Edward served as road overseer, his reputation for fairness and competence growing. He understood the importance of good roads for the community, for commerce, and for connecting people. Edward's family life was central to his world. He and Anna raised a family in Littleton. The arrival of his brothers James, Isaac Newton, and William, and his sister Mary Margaret strengthened the Chatfield presence in Littleton. James, like Edward, became a prominent figure in Littleton. He arrived in 1888, hoping the Colorado air would heal his wife Annie, who was suffering from consumption. Tragically, Annie passed away in 1889, leaving James with 2 young children. James, with the support of his siblings, rebuilt his life in Littleton. He became a notary public, a real estate agent, and eventually Littleton's first justice of the peace. The Chatfields witnessed Littleton evolve from a small agricultural settlement into a thriving town. They saw the arrival of new businesses, the construction of new homes, and the growth of the population. Edward, despite his many contributions, faced personal challenges in his later years. His health began to decline, and he struggled with memory loss and other cognitive issues. In 1917, he was declared legally incompetent, and his daughter, Adeline, and her husband, Bernie Ray, took over management of the Chatfield Ranch. The Rays faced financial difficulties in managing the ranch, and in 1920 they were forced to sell it to Charlie Newby. This marked the end of the Chatfield family's direct ownership of the land that had played such a central role in their lives. Edward spent his final years at the Old Soldiers' Home in Sawtell, California, near his daughter. He passed away in 1924 and was brought back to Littleton for burial, a final return to the community he had helped shape. Edward's passing marked the end of an era, but the Chatfield legacy lived on. His contributions to Littleton, particularly his work on the roads and the waterworks, had laid a foundation for the town's future growth. The Chatfield name became synonymous with Littleton, a symbol of pioneering spirit and community service. Chatfield Avenue, a major thoroughfare, stands as a reminder of the family's influence. Perhaps the most endearing tribute to the Chatfields is Chatfield State Park and Recreation Area. This vast park encompasses the land once owned by Edward and Isaac, provides recreational opportunities for thousands of visitors each year. It's a place where families gather, where nature is celebrated, and where the spirit of the Chatfields lives on. The reservoir itself, a crucial component of the park, serves a vital purpose, which is flood control. But unfortunately, many families were displaced in the making of the Chatfield Reservoir, including the Hildebrands, and you may recognize that name from Hildebrand Ranch, which is at the Botanic Gardens at Chatfield Farms. So this whole area was submerged underwater, but what came with that was more flood control, more predictability of the South Platte River with snowmelt, and ultimately a refuge for the citizens of Denver and Littleton to go to. Also named after the Chatfields is Chatfield High School, a prominent educational institution, which further cements the family connection to Littleton. The school's name honors the Chatfields' commitment to the community and their belief in the importance of education. The story of the Chatfields is more than just a local history. It's a microcosm of the broader story of the American West. It's a story of Western migration, of entrepreneurial spirit, of community building, and of the enduring power of family. The Chatfields, like so many other families who came west, faced challenges and setbacks, but they persevered. They adapted to the harsh environment, they built communities, and they left behind a legacy that continues to shape Littleton today. Their story is a reminder that the true wealth of the West lies not in gold or silver, but in the resilience and resourcefulness of its people, in their commitment to community, and in their enduring connection to the land.